Do you want to make an unwinnable fight? Then just put a Trask and 2 Ancient Dragons and yeah, you're done. But that's not what we're talking about here. This isn't a video about how to do a total party kill. No, this is a video about the benefits of making a combat where your players cannot win. This is a common trope you'll see in video games such as Paper Mario or Final Fantasy, where the purpose of the fight is to set the strength of an enemy, so that you usually get to fight them later on and shown how much your character has grown since that first fight. Well, we can do the same thing in D&D. In fact, there's a good chance you've seen this happen in D&D already. Matt Mercer has used this technique multiple times throughout the main campaign on Critical Role, and it is almost always done at the start of a story arc to set the threat level for the new enemies they will face. You can do the exact same thing, but it's really easy to get this wrong. Deploying an unwinnable fight in the wrong way, or at the wrong time, or too often can make your party feel railroaded and cheated. To make sure you're doing this right, you're going to want to focus on 3 main things: the frequency, the clarity, and the consequences. I just want to clarify that there is almost no circumstance where forcing a total party kill is fun. I know I already said that isn't what the video is about, but I just want to make sure you understand that if you're going to do an unwinnable fight, you should give your party a fair chance to escape, give the enemy a good reason to retreat, or have them do non-lethal damage so the players can lick their wounds and live another day. So starting off, you're going to want to pay attention to how frequently you're putting your party into an unwinnable situation. For example, in Critical Role, the time difference between the first encounter with the Briarwoods and the first encounter with the Chroma Conclave is about 50 hours of gameplay and more than 3 months of real-life time. Plus, both of these situations played out very differently, with one being played out like an encounter and another being played out more like a natural disaster. The unwinnable fight is a trope, and like any trope, it is used often because of its effectiveness. But if it's used too often, you lose that effectiveness, and it feels stale and predictable. If you're having big bads show up and fight your party all the time and then retreat to be fought later, then the players are going to start to feel like you're taking control of the story so you can show off how cool and tough your enemies are, which is obviously not what we want to happen. Knowing the timing requires knowing your players. Some players can handle losing better than others. Some can only handle it if they know that playing better would have given them the win. If you have someone like this in your party, they're going to be more likely to spot and call out an unwinnable fight, so you might want to just do this once to see how they react and then avoid doing it again for 5 to 6 months. But that's assuming you're running a weekly game. For a monthly game, 5 to 6 months is way closer together to have 2 unwinnable fights. It is basically always best practice that if you're going to do an unwinnable fight, to place it at the beginning of an adventure or story arc. You want to set up your party as not being strong enough yet, but then allow the party to grow and become stronger over an adventure, and at the end of that arc or adventure, you can show how much they've grown by having them fight that enemy again and being able to defeat them this time. But you'll also need to know how clear you want to make it to your players that this fight is unbeatable. We were attacked by a group of adventurers working for an evil cult. And can I say, these guys were tough. They had player levels, they had death saves, they had healing spells, they had counterspell. My wizard watched the ranger go down, and I stood there with 1 4th level spell slot left, having to decide between using it to cast Ice Storm, which if it wasn't enough damage we might have ended up in a TPK, or I could use Dimension Door and make sure at least 2 of us get out alive, but also ensuring that we lost the fight. I ended up choosing Dimension Door, and there's this whole situation of us getting separated and being chased through the city, but I still have no idea whether or not we could have won that fight. It's clear to me that the DM prepared for us to lose, but whether or not I made choices that night that made us lose, that's still up in the air. That lack of clarity is exactly what you want. You want your players to feel like the problem wasn't that they just weren't high enough level, but that they weren't skilled enough to defeat them. That way, when the enemies come back later, the party are working more as a team to defeat the bad guys, and their characters didn't just get better, but the party are being better at the game. This actually leads into my next topic, player choice. Sometimes there's going to be no way to avoid the fact that the fight is unwinnable. You're going to have an adult dragon attacking a city that the level 5 party are in. They know that they're not supposed to fight them. This is basically what's going to happen if you're treating your monster like a natural disaster or a kaiju. They aren't really fighting the party, it's more of the party is just caught in the collision of the disaster that they're causing. In this case, you're not going to be able to convince the party that if they had a better strategy, they could have avoided letting the city burn down. You're going to have to add something to this encounter so the players feel like they have real and clear choices they have to make, so they don't end up feeling like they're in a cutscene. So instead of focusing on them trying to do damage to this monster, have them focus on what they can handle on the ground. Part of their goal should be to get somewhere safe, but more importantly, they should be trying to get other people somewhere safe. Maybe you have a group of citizens who beg the party to lead them to safety. Then the party have to make choices and decisions on how they're going to protect these people, what they're willing to do to save people along the way, and who they're willing to leave behind if they can't keep up. At the end, you can tell the party how many people they had originally with them, and how many people that they saw needed help along the way, and how many people they managed to save in the end. Now, even if they failed to defeat that dragon, they might have managed to save more people than they left behind, or maybe they managed to save an old woman who couldn't keep up with the crowds. Now, you could have made it so it's possible to save everyone if you do everything right and get good with your rolls. You could make it so it's impossible no matter what. But again, we have that seed of doubt, uncertainty. Could I have used the spell or magic item to save that person? If you make an encounter with a 0% chance of winning, and the players feel like there was even a 1% chance of winning, then you've done an okay job of making an unwinnable encounter. I'm going to end the video there. Unwinnable fights can be really good for the story, but you just have to be very careful in the way you use them and when you use them. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and you want to see more videos like it, you can click that subscribe button to stay updated on future uploads. Thank you again, and this is the end of the video.